I call this meeting of the Alvin Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Next on the agenda is the invocation and pledges of allegiance. Please rise and join me for the invocation. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support. Fill us with your grace, O Lord, as we make decisions and joyfully celebrate our students' and staff's achievements. Continue to remind us that all that we do today, all that we accomplish, is for the greater glory of you and for the service of humanity. We ask for these things in your name. Amen. Amen. All right, we have our pledges.
We do. Board, we have a special guest here. You want to tell him who you are? I sprang this on him at the last minute, so I'm so sorry. So you want to tell him who you are?
Robert Mouse.
Robert Mouse, and tell him where you go to school.
Brothers Elementary.
Oh, awesome. Would you like to lead us in the pledge? Come right up here and I'll help you. You ready? Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now for the Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. You did a great job. Great job.
Thank you so much. All right, next item on our agenda is the superintendent's report.
So board, last month, the Teacher of the Year Committee interviewed 7 elementary teachers and 5 secondary teachers that were selected as the finalists for the Alvin ISD Teacher of the Year. These outstanding educators exemplify excellence in the classroom and inspire those around them. A district elementary winner and a secondary winner will be named at our employee recognition ceremony in May. Last month, we took my Superintendent Student Advisory Council to the Brazoria County Courthouse. We went to the County Commissioner's Court for a hands-on look at county government and emergency preparedness. We met with not only the Commissioner's Court, the judge, the district attorneys, investigators. We toured their Emergency Operations Center and participated in a mock trial with Justice of the Peace Sarah Linder. And last year, we went to Austin when the legislative session was in session and took them then. So this gave them a view from not only the state, but also the county as well. And we're hoping some will come next month to the board meeting. The top 20 students from each high school, along with the top 2 students from Rise Academy, were announced last month. Congratulations to these hardworking students on this outstanding achievement, and we will be celebrating them at an academic excellence banquet that is hosted by our Alvin ISD Education Foundation. So we're looking forward to that. Our Alvin ISD Junior High librarians hosted their annual Lone Star Lasso Author Celebration on Friday, March the 20th, to celebrate 180 students from all 9 campuses who completed the Texas Library Association Lone Star Ready list. Each year, these authors whose books were on the list are invited to come and speak to our students. After the author presentation, 15 students were honored with plaques for reading 27 or more books on the TLA's Lone Star and Maverick book list. How many of you have read 27 books in a year? Anyone? Anyone? No. Put you on the spot.
Audio book.
Savannah Lakes Elementary presents the Lion King Kids. They were selected by the Theater Under the Stars as one of only 4 schools to participate in the 2025 Disney Musical School Program. Developed by Disney Theatrical Group, Disney Musicals in Schools is designed to create sustainable theater programs in under-resourced elementary schools, providing students and educators with access to the arts and hands-on musical theater experience. For 17 weeks, they have been working hard on their musical, The Lion King Kids, and will perform it at Savannah Lakes Elementary on May 14th at 6 p.m. So we hope you all can join. Our graduations are coming up. Congratulations. Our class of 2026 graduations will be held beginning on Tuesday, May the 19th at 7:30 p.m., and these will all take place out at Freedom Field. Manville High School that was Iowa Colony High School, will kick us off, and then Manville High School on Wednesday at 7:30 p.m., followed by Alvin High School on Thursday at 7:30 p.m., and then on Friday, we will have at 9 a.m., you'll see at the bottom down there on Friday, we'll have Rise Academy at 9 a.m., and then that evening we'll have Shadow Creek High School at 7:30 p.m. And all of this is on our website and on the calendar as well. So we look forward to that and pray that there's no rain on those days. And then we have our Legacy of Learning video that Mr. Phil, we call him, has put together for us with the decade of 1995 through 2005.
Chapter 8, Decade of Change. As the world nervously awaited the Y2K bug at the turn of the century, few could have predicted the profound changes the coming decade would bring. A decade that would leave a lasting impact on Alvin Independent School District, especially since voters approved 2 bond elections totaling more than $155 million for projects to help the district keep up with the needs of its ever-growing student body. In 1997, Alvin ISD celebrated a new chapter with the opening of Hood Case Elementary, named in honor of 2 cherished educators. Golda Finger Hood, who taught in Alvin ISD for over 3 decades, beginning in 1931, and Bobby Case, whose career in education spanned 37 years. Ms. Hood, a beloved teacher who taught through the Great Depression, World War II, and beyond, passed away at the age of 104, just 1 year before the school was opened in her honor. Bobby Case, starting her teaching career in Alvin in 1949, became a pillar of the community. Her dedication and love for education were felt across the district.
Deeply humbled and felt a great deal of pride in my profession at the same time.
Their legacy was cemented as Hood Case Elementary opened its doors to a new generation of students ready to learn, grow, and be inspired. Movement was the name of the game in sports when Houstonians were shocked to see their beloved Oilers leave town in 1996. To eventually become the Tennessee Titans. The Love You Blue days were over, but the NFL would return with the Houston Texans launching in 2002. Alvin ISD had its own athletic changes. Ron Lynch quit Alvin High School football, which led to the hiring of Coach Mike Bass in 1998. He would become athletic director for the entire district in 2006, a position he still holds in 2026.
Alvin ISD has always been about family, and so that's what we do. We bring the communities in together, and we become one large family. We might be competitive on a Friday night or Tuesday night or Wednesday night or wherever it might be, but when it's all said and done, we're Alvin ISD, which is the family.
As the calendar flipped to the year 2000, the world held its breath. The Y2K scare left people wondering if computers and systems would crash. But by the time the new millennium began, it was clear the real changes were happening in how we lived, communicated, and learned.
There is more and more fire and smoke enveloping the very top of the building.
But in September of 2001, terror struck. The Twin Towers in New York City crumbled to the ground before the eyes of the entire world. The shock and heartbreak of 9/11.
A huge explosion now raining debris on all of us.
There are no words.
Forever changed the course of history. And Alvin ISD, like the rest of the nation, watched in disbelief. But through tragedy, we found strength in our community.
It brought people together. It united people, and we kind of comforted one another and consoled one another. But we also, kids are kids, and they have to have the routine. They still need to see that life goes on, right? And that's what we do in education. We have tragedy, we have things that come up, but we still continue to move forward on our path for the kids, for what's best for kids.
Alvin ISD continued to move forward, embracing progress while never forgetting the values of resilience, respect, and unity. The turn of the century also saw the rise of technology. The world became connected in ways never before imagined. Cell phones, once a luxury, became an everyday essential. The launch of the Apple iPod changed the way we listen to music. And who would forget when Netflix, Amazon, and Facebook were born, transforming the way we watched, shopped, and interacted with each other. As Alvin ISD entered the new millennium, technology became an essential tool in the classroom. Teachers and students alike adapted to the digital age, preparing the next generation for a world that was evolving rapidly. The growth of the district continued in 2002 when Don Jeter Elementary opened its doors. Named for Don Jeter, a dedicated educator who had spent decades in education, including serving as superintendent of Manville ISD. His legacy as a teacher, leader, and community advocate lives on through the students who continue to walk the halls of this school. And in 2004, Merrick Elementary became a cornerstone in the rapidly growing Shadow Creek Ranch community. Named for Mary Burks Merrick, a lifelong educator and proud graduate of Alvin High School. Merrick Elementary would go on to become a home for students in one of the district's most thriving areas. Merrick, who grew up in Alvin and dedicated her life to teaching, inspired generations to embrace education as the key to unlocking opportunities. With new schools, new technologies, and a community united by a shared love for education, the district was ready to face the challenges and opportunities of the 21st century. Terror, shock, and uncertainty were supposed to be what the Y2K bug was to bring, but instead, students got to see it happen at a high school in the Denver area. With hanging chads in Florida, as a nation saw George Bush prevail in a hotly contested presidential election, and then 9/11 brought the most devastating attack on U.S. soil since Pearl Harbor. Through the trials and triumphs of the 2000s, Alvin ISD continued to honor its past while looking toward the future. In every classroom, on every campus, the district's commitment to shaping young minds remained unwavering.
Thank you.
All right, next on our agenda is student and faculty commendations, and they'll be presented by trustees Swinney and Roberson.
Good evening, board. Good evening, guest. We are very glad you're here today with us. If I call your name, please come up and receive your medal. Parents, feel free to take photos at this time. We will wait for you. This is about your child and their big moments. So just feel free to stand where you are or get in the aisle and take photos to document this time for them. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and start with the state swimming and diving. The UIL State Swimming and Diving Championships was held in February and August. Representing Shadow Creek High School at the 6A State Dive Swim Championship were seniors Hannah Tran with the 1 meter diving, Riley Toll, and Dylan Channel with swimming, along with sophomore Sydney Bowling with diving. And from Iowa Colony High School, we have seniors Dyson Nevels and Kevin Galvan. They competed in the 5A State Dive Championship in the 1 meter diving event. Nevels earned an impressive 3rd place finish, while Galvan secured 8th place. So great job. And also from Iowa Colony, we have Matthew Johnston and Liz Villegas. Yes, parents, now is a great time to take photos if you're taking photos of them. That's a good group of students there. I can only imagine how fast y'all are in the water. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's
Congratulations.
fast. Yes, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Oh, wait, we're going to get some coaches up here.
good.
Oh, we do need the coaches, yes, definitely. Definitely, so we can get that photo
I'm loving
as
the
well.
shirts.
I know.
I am too.
They are.
And if you will tell us who you are. I know I see Caitlin Cunningham.
Yep.
And then our
Creek.
other 2 coaches. Tell us who you are.
Congratulations.
Awesome. Thank you. So great job. This is a good group of people here. A lot of hard work.
Congratulate you.
Great job.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Okay, next, the National Merit Finalist. Alvin ISD is proud to announce that 11 outstanding students have been named National Merit Finalists in the prestigious 2026 National Merit Scholarship Program. These scholars have demonstrated exceptional academic achievement, placing them among the top students nationwide. National Merit Finalists represent the highest level of academic excellence, earning this recognition through top scores on the PSAT, NMSQT, outstanding academic records, and strong leadership in their schools and communities. These students now advance to the next stage, competing for the prestigious National Merit Scholarships that will be awarded later this spring. So if I call your name, please come up. The 2026 National Merit Finalists from Alvin ISD are Arwin Ahuja from Shadow Creek High School. Amara, if you're here, I don't want to mess up your name, but Chuck Wamerji, are you here? No? That person is also from Shadow Creek High School. And Ann Minnak Dong Chow is also from Shadow Creek High School.
There's someone studying.
Yes. That's right. Jacob George from Shadow Creek High School. Anirban Ghosh from Shadow Creek High School. Lillian Gilbert from Shadow Creek High School. Karthik Kamenye from Shadow Creek High School. Rochelle Mocker from Shadow Creek High School. Caitlin Wynn from Shadow Creek High School. Vincent Baum from Shadow Creek High School. And Blake Ching from Manville High School. Great job, everyone. Yes, now is your time to get the photos.
Come on up.
That's
So
a
y'all
lot
tell
of
your
brain power.
classmates tomorrow you got money tonight that if they came. Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations. That's a lot of hard work that goes into all those years, so great job. Okay, next we're celebrating rodeo art. So Shadow Creek High School senior Adrian Villarina received a premium reward at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo 3D art competition. She was the only Alvin ISD student whose piece advanced in the competition, making this a proud achievement for Shadow Creek High School and the district. And her teacher is Amy Gardzil. Are either one of them here? Adrian Villarina. Okay, next we have Shadow Creek Girls Basketball. The Shadow Creek girls basketball team had a record-breaking season as they made it to state semifinals. We're so proud of this team for how they represented Alvin ISD this season. So if I call your name, please come up. We have Shona Gilbert, which is a sophomore. Curran McNeil, which is a senior. Denia Lewis, which is a senior. Is this the one we're moving? Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, their coach wasn't able to make it for a very good reason.
Yes.
So we will pick
Invite
up
them
with
back.
those next.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yes,
Thank you, Ms.
Sorry.
Robbins. No, that's perfect.
Yes.
Thank you.
And then next, we have staff commendations. So I would like to talk about the Financial Services Department for a minute. This is a very important department in our district. So we love it when they get awards because it just confirms what they do on a daily basis. So the Alvin ISD's commitment to responsible fiscal stewardship continues to earn national recognition. For the 13th consecutive year, the district has received the Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting from the Association of School Business Officials International for its annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. The award highlights districts that demonstrate high standards in financial reporting and transparency. ASBO International also recognized Alvin ISD with the Meritorious Budget Award, which honors school systems that demonstrate sound fiscal management and strong budget development practices. Alvin ISD has earned the Meritorious Budget Award annually since 2013. The leadership of Cheryl Ryan, Executive Director of Financial Services, and Sonia Hulkin, the Director of Budgeting, and their teams maintain the highest standards of leadership and expectations for Alvin ISD budgeting and fiscal practices. So Cheryl Ryan and Sonia Hulkin, if you would please join us up here.
Not a room on the wall for those.
Okay, thank you very much.
Congratulations and thank you.
That's it. Okay. All right. I'll let Frank get seated. Students, if you think that you need to go home and get your homework done, this might be a good time.
They did it already. Those two guys.
All right, that's wonderful.
Congratulations.
We appreciate y'all being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
There you go.
Congratulations to the parents as well.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Thank you. And as Mr. Humbert always said, there's room on the front row if anybody wants to move up.
Ms. Hawken, are you going home to study too or work on budget?
And Ms. Ryan is going to help her, I think.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
Daniel gave you a pass, huh?
I'm just teasing you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, next on the agenda is our presentations. We're going to have two of them. The first is going to be the teacher incentive allotment, and then the second is going to be the enrollment projection forecast. So we'll start with the TIA.
So board, this evening, we have a team that's going to be presenting kind of an update of teacher incentive allotment, and then we will have them present first. Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Nelson. Thank you for this opportunity to talk about the teacher incentive allotment and the Alvin ISD's local designation system. As a reminder, TIA is an opportunity to recognize teachers at 3 designation levels. It provides annual additional funding for each designated teacher. It does prioritize hard-to-staff positions. It is teacher-focused funding, and once a teacher earns a designation, they retain that designation for 5 years, regardless of their teaching assignment. The Teacher Incentive Allotment Committees in Alvin ISD consist of representatives from accountability, assessment and program development, communications, academics, finance, human resources, and technology. We also sought feedback from the Teacher Advisory Committee, District Education Improvement Committee, the Future Administrators Academy, as well as through a Let's Chat button on the Alvin ISD TIA website that all staff could access to ask questions or provide feedback. This school year, 2025-2026, we created a TIA stakeholder committee, which consists of teachers, one representative from each campus, and principals. Creating a local designation system under TIA is a 3-year, 2-step approval process. So in year 1, districts develop their local designation system, decide on growth measures and teacher observation ratings. Then you submit the application to TEA after you've built the system, and also submit a TIA teacher buy-in survey to Texas Tech University. Year 2 is considered data capture year, where districts implement their system, tracking student growth and teacher observations. And in year 3, you submit the data to and your proposed designations to Texas Tech University for data validation. TEA reviews that to determine final approval. I want to go a little deeper into what getting system approval means. So during year 1, we started in 2023. Alvin ISD created the local designation system, deciding upon student growth measures, which Mr. Brent Shaw will speak on later, and our T-test system, which Ms. Kwan and Mr. Rhodes will present on. The application is submitted in that year. Year 2 is when districts collect data, teacher ratings, as well as student growth. And then in year 3, districts submit that data for data validation, hoping for full system approval. Alvin ISD's local designation system was created with collaboration with Region 4, other neighboring districts, districts across the state of Texas, and we decided upon the following local designation system. Our designation system would make up, or to earn a rating, the teacher's designations would be made up by student growth, counting 70% of a teacher's proposed designation, and teacher observation ratings making up 30% of that proposed designation system. We followed the statewide performance standards as set out by TEA, and those standards are as follows. In order for a teacher to be proposed for a recognized rating, they would have 3.7 points under the T-test appraisal system, and their students, 55% of their students, would meet or exceed their growth. For an exemplary rating, the teacher would have a 3.9 T-test rating, and 60% of their students would meet or exceed the growth performance standards. And for a master proposed designation, teachers would have a 4.5 on T-test and have 70% of their students meeting or exceeding their growth performance standards. It is important to note that the state does consider recognized teachers among the top 33% of teachers in the state. They consider exemplary teachers to be among the top 20% of teachers in the state, and a master teacher represents the top 5% of teachers in the state of Texas. We are happy to say that Alvin ISD's growth did exceed these growth performance standards, and so we're going to talk about that a little bit later when I discuss the data validation process. So, Alvin ISD's estimated timeline, as shared previously, was in April of 2024, we did submit our application. We learned in August of 2024 that our application was accepted, which means that we could move forward in collecting data and start trying to propose designations. 2024-2025 school year was our data capture year. So again, we collected T-test ratings and student growth as shown on STAR. In October of 2025, we submitted our data to Texas Tech University, anticipating to receive notification of system approval in April of 2026 for funds to be paid out in August of 2026. So I want to talk a little bit about data validation process. As I stated, we submitted our data in October of 2025 to Texas Tech University for validation. From October to February, there's no communication. Texas Tech does their data validation checkpoints. They compare our statewide or our proposed designations to statewide expectations. And then in February of 2026, they send your data validation report to districts. So we did receive results indicating that our data was not validated in February of 2026. We were permitted to to submit an appeal due to the evidence of our implementation fidelity. Not all districts receive that opportunity to submit an appeal. It's not something that you can ask for. It just means that our system was close enough to fidelity to then explain our data. So we consulted with Region 4 and TIA representatives from TIA and submitted an appeal. And we learned in March 2026 that our appeal was not granted. Some things we learned from our data validation report is that our teacher observation was not calibrated closely enough across campuses in our district or to statewide expectations. And they will talk a little more about what that looks like as far as calibration. We shared the outcome of our appeal with the Board of Trustees, campus administrators, and impacted teachers. We have conducted campus visits to answer questions and provide clarity on the validation process. And so, Board, what I've learned through those campus visits, we listened to teachers, we hear their frustration, we acknowledge that, and we empathize with them. We know that this process, we could have done better in communicating along the way what the expectations were. And part of that confusion or part of the reason the communication was not as clear and consistent is because at the end of the day, the data can change as far as our cut points and our percentages so that we can align with statewide expectations. So we submitted a very not conservative designation system, which would have many of our teachers earning designations. As I stated earlier, our student growth is higher than the state's recommendation, and so we submitted teachers who had more than that 55% student growth, but their teacher observation was not closely calibrated enough across that amount of growth to show that it was reliable. And so we were overly confident in the growth of our students and the outstanding job our teachers had done and proposed a little under 50% of our teachers for designations. The state expectation at this time obviously is a third. And so although TEA states that districts can recommend more or less than that targeted percentage, we are finding out that it needs to be much closer to those percentages than what we submitted. So we are going to have Mr. Rhodes and Ms. Kwan talk about T-test calibration. Then Mr. Shaw will talk about STAR growth. I will come back at the end of the presentation to discuss next steps and allow an opportunity for questions as well.
All right, good evening, trustees and Superintendent Nelson. Thank you for the opportunity to share this update on T-test calibration. Tonight, we'll walk through what calibration is, why it matters, and how it ensures fairness, consistency, and instructional quality across our district. T-test calibration is the process that ensures all administrators have a shared understanding of the T-test rubric. Through calibration, we focus on evidence-based scoring rather than opinions or assumptions. Administrators practice scoring instruction together and discuss the ratings to ensure the expectations are aligned across campuses. The goal is consistency and accuracy in how instructional practices are evaluated district-wide. Calibration is critical because it promotes consistency across campuses, ensuring that teachers are evaluated by the same standards regardless of where they work. It also aligns our practices to the Texas Education Agency and the teacher incentive allotment expectations, helping guarantee fairness in teacher designations. Most importantly, this consistency builds trust in the evaluation system and supports strong instructional practices that benefit all students.
Good evening. So during the 24-25 school year, administrators calibrated on a monthly basis and at a principal and assistant principal meetings. During these sessions, administrators observed the same instructional lesson using district-created examples, and each administrator scored the lesson using the T-test rubric. During this school year, we continued the monthly calibrations with administrators with the focus on evidence-based ratings using TEA-provided and district-created examples. In addition to administrators reviewed relevant student academic data connected to teacher evaluations. We then engaged in structured evidence-based dialogue to compare those ratings. We analyzed the instructional impact on student outcomes and aligned expectations to ensure consistency and fairness in instructional evaluations across the district. For the 2026-27 school year, we are strengthening our calibration process in two key ways. The first, being across campus observations. Administrators will observe lessons together in real classroom settings and compare ratings in real time and discuss the rubric alignment to deepen shared understanding. The second is data monitoring. We will track scoring patterns by campus to identify trends of over or underscoring and provide targeted support where needed. This allows us to proactively address inconsistencies before they impact teacher outcomes. So we will continue to build a systematic, ongoing calibration cycle and focus on anchoring scoring to evidence and rubric fidelity. We will use multiple calibration methods through videos, live instruction, and shadowing, track and monitor inter-rater reliability data, and continuously analyze observations and student growth alignment. As a result of the strengthened calibration process, we expect to see greater consistency across campuses, stronger alignment with state expectations, and an improved likelihood of teacher incentive allotment approval. Ultimately, these efforts reinforce the integrity of our evaluation system and support high-quality instruction for all students. Now, Mr. Brent Shaw will discuss student growth.
Good evening, everyone. So as mentioned earlier, the second portion of a TIA teacher scorecard is the growth measure. In Alvin ISD, the committee chose to use STAR, which is the most used common assessment across the state, to measure student growth. Growth counts as 70% of a teacher's overall TIA scorecard, the other 30% being the T-test evaluation. Growth is measured for the following students and teachers. Students that are and teachers that are teaching grades 4 math through Algebra 1, grade 4 RLA through English 2. Growth is also measured by using the STAR growth transition table released by TEA. In order for students to be included, they must have a previous year STAR score and a current year STAR score. Growth is also measured for students that were with those teachers in math or RLA from October to April STAR test date. So if they came into the teacher's classroom after October, or if they left before testing, they would not be included in that teacher's scorecard. They had to be at both dates in October and on STAR date. You may have seen this before. This is TEA's growth transition table. It's what they also use to calculate domain 2 of the accountability ratings. You'll notice the column going down, it says prior year. That would be, in this case, 24 STAR scores. The headings across the top, which are read vertically, those would be the current, which would, in this case, be the 2025 STAR scores. This is binary, zeros and ones. Basically, if there is a 0 there, that student did not earn a growth measure. If they're in that green area of a 1, they earned a full point for growth measure. And if they're in the gray area, which says half, they actually did not grow or move a proficiency level. They actually remained the same, but did not meet that grade level or master's. So for an order of teacher to get credit for a growth measure on the TEIA calculation, they would have had to have their students move a performance level from the previous year, with the exception of any meets or masters. The students did not have to move a performance level if they remained in that meets or in that masters. Real quickly, how you would read this, I'll just look at the top row. That top row going across from left to right, those are students in 2024 that were in the low did not meet grade level. Where you see that 0 for 2025, they remained in that level, so they did not show growth. As you move from left to right, they went from low did not meet in 24 to high did not meet. Then they received a 1, so they did meet that growth measure. And of course, if they met low did not meet, high approaches, meets, or masters, they would meet that growth measure. Just real quickly going down to the bottom, if you look at that masters row across, that would be students that scored 2024 masters. In order for them to receive that growth measure, they would have to maintain that masters. In other words, if they were masters in 24 but went to meets in 25, you see that 0 there in that second to last column, they would not meet the growth measure. Turn it back over to Ms. Hoskins, who's going to talk about our plan going forward.
All right, so next steps in our local designation system, we are going to continue our partnership with Region 18, the Data Hub, for data management, consultation, and validation. We're going to test alternative local designation models using the 2025-2026 data and submit this updated data in October of 2026. So one good thing is that they are allowing us to submit this year's data for proposed designations to be paid out next August. They felt that our system was close enough that our data could be resubmitted for designations from this year's current data. When we talk about testing alternative local designation models, we used a very not conservative local designation system model where student growth could pull up a teacher's observation rating, or the rating could pull up that student growth. This ends up designating a lot of teachers. And so what some other models look like is that you have to be at the accepted level in your teacher observation and in your student growth to get that rating. So you would go with the lower of the two, which would throw out some of the skews that came back in our data validation from our first submission. And then also, you are able to adjust cut scores. And so the cut scores that we have shared of 3.7, 3.9, 55%, 60%, before you submit your data, districts can actually adjust those. And so possibly what would have been communicated with teachers as your target may not really be your target if it's not close enough to what statewide projections are. And so that's what we mean by testing alternative local designation models. We will continue collaborating with Region 4 and TIA cohort districts to improve alignment with state projections. We'll continue to strengthen the T-test calibration practices to better align with state standards. We will most definitely increase communication and support for teachers regarding TIA and the local designation system. We are planning to expand TIA participation to all campuses in our current eligible teaching categories in 2026-2027 pending approval of our application. I know that's a lot of information. What questions?
Board, do you have questions?
How many teachers were in this first cohort?
We had a little over 109 total teachers that would have been eligible for the designations.
And was that just at certain schools or all?
There were 9 campuses in our first application that was approved, and so pending approval, all campuses with those same teaching categories will now have an opportunity next school year.
And then each year, the data has to be validated even by districts that have been approved.
That's
each
good.
year they have to validate. Is that correct?
Good point. So data validation will occur every single year. Once your system is approved or your application is approved, it doesn't matter if your data validates this school year, next school year, it will go through the same data validation checks with your new data to see if it again validates. So every single year, it is a proposed designation that the district submits, and if we are validated through the data validation process, then those proposed designations are approved by TEA.
I do have questions.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for the information. I particularly have read a lot about this. I thought it was an interesting option for our teachers to take advantage of back in 2023 when I went through a presentation at TASB. So thank you for at least allowing our teachers to participate in this. Superintendent Nelson got the first question answered, so some of these you may answer as I go, so I'm just going to go. My mother was my best teacher. She told me, continue to ask until I get clarity, so bear with me. I understand that STAR was one of the options that we used for growth. If we did not use the STAR, what were our other options?
Okay, so under TIA, you can use pre and post test, which is our STAR. So it would have been last year's STAR to this year's STAR, that's what we chose. You could use district-created pre and post tests, which don't usually tend to yield reliable results, of their own, not always to the rigor. You can use portfolios, and you can use value-added model. It is a new, value-added model is not new. There is a Texas value-added model that is now a part of the checkpoints through data validation that some districts are probably looking to use it definitely as a check, but because the state compares your STAR growth to that, that is another option that is becoming available.
And the reason I ask that, because we understand the STAR may change tomorrow, right? And if I understand correctly, the cohorts may change with the calibration and the data that we use. So next year's data is going to be based off of a new set of students, and we may have new educators in the class teaching that particular subset of students. So would it benefit us to use our own sort of growth model so that we can control the calibration method that we report back and have a better chance of success with this going forward?
It is an interesting question and one that we for sure will be discussing. We have discussed it with Data Hub as far as what seems to be most reliable, what most districts are using. At the current time, STAR was the most readily used, but it's something we're never going to stop looking into to make sure we're meeting that state model.
And regarding the teachers that were impacted, so will they just continue to go on as normal, and the new teachers that may qualify?
The teachers who were impacted by not being validated, their data will be submitted this year, so they could earn a designation next summer. The new teachers who are being brought on for next school year, their data will be submitted off of next school year's STAR and T-test. So the ones who are currently eligible remain currently eligible and will get paid out this next August. The new ones would be a year after that because of that lag in collecting data.
Next August will be based off the current
Off
data.
of this school year,
What
yes,
we
sir.
do now.
Got
Those
it.
teachers.
For the 100. For the 100 and something.
Yes,
that are
anyone who's in a current eligible,
Okay.
yes, anybody who might have moved into the district or who stayed in those positions,
Okay.
in those teaching assignments.
Just because you're submitted doesn't mean you qualify, right? You get it.
No, sir.
So
They are-
if we did 109, could we only, say, only 25 could actually get it? Not all 109?
State
or-
decides.
Oh, absolutely. It is based on what the state says are your best teachers, and then we, through our system, have to get close to that for them to say, your data is reliable and valid. Yes, sir.
So,
Sorry.
go ahead.
I got one more.
No, I was waiting.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Do we know, based off just our data, how many teachers we had under the recognized exemplary or masters, even without having been
I
approved?
won't be able to give you exact numbers off the top of my head, but I will tell you that we had more recognized and master proposed designations than we did, exemplary and I apologize. We had more exemplary and master proposed designations than recognized. And again, with our student growth being higher than what the state was setting, we felt that was aligned to those designations.
Sorry, Trustee Stevens.
No worries.
My mom
Knock
said I
yourself
asked a
out.
lot of
Your
questions. I got
mom
in
said
trouble
to
for
ask
talking about it.
questions. We're going to go with what your mom
Okay.
said.
I just want to revisit again.
That was based on the guidance from Region 4 and our TA contact
Is,
for TIA.
that is correct. There's even
Okay.
a TEA slide that says districts may propose designations for more or less than the recommended state averages.
Back to my growth
Yes, sir.
tracking. Now that I think about it, it may, and you guys will be better off answering this. Will it harm us if we change it now because we've already submitted this data?
I do have that answer.
Okay.
We cannot change it
All right.
in the
That's-
middle of
I
a
wanted-
school year
I
at
wanted to
all,
clarify.
because
Okay.
once your application is accepted, you have to run whatever you put on your application. The following year, April 15th, if you decide you want to make modifications and change your growth measure, that's when you can do it.
We can adjust as need be going
Yes, sir.
forward.
So we can't adjust this current data that will be submitted, but going forward.
But tomorrow, April
day.
15th,
Tax
you
day.
can, yeah.
I could for anything future, and still not this year's data, but for future.
I yield
Yes,
my time
ma'am.
to trustee Sweet. Thank you.
So polite, I thank you. Okay, so I want to gain some clarity here. I know the scoring was based on 70% star, and we went with the star rating, and then 30% was based on our T-test.
Yes, ma'am.
And I know you said that we were close enough, and you don't have to share what close enough looks like by identifying that, so I won't take you through that. But I will say, where did our areas of opportunity lie? Were they in the 70% of the star, or 30% of the T-test, or was it in both of those?
It's a little in both. It is heavier on the T-test.
Okay.
We were really good at identifying good teachers. Our opportunity for growth is being able to rank those good teachers more appropriately at that master's exemplary recognized level.
So if we were able to adjust, when you think about actually attaining the TIA allotment or what have you, if we focused in the T-test area, then that essentially would get us what we need, is what I'm going for.
We are confident that will get us closer to
So we
the
were close
state.
enough in the star portion of it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Then my second question is really, I guess, third question was around bullet point 5 and the communication piece. I saw at the beginning, we talked about a team of people and everybody has a role in this process and what that looks like. And I just want to see if we have already put together what the plan of action is in regards to communicating the process, right? Is there something that will say, hey, we submitted the application today. From submission to completion takes this long. This is what we should expect. Hey, this is where we are. We're out evaluating teachers today. This is what that timeline looks like. So can you share a little bit about what the plan of action is regarding communication? Because we've identified that as an
area.
opportunity. Absolutely.
Yes,
So do we have something in place already?
We do. We're going to have TIA newsletters that will come out at least quarterly. We will make videos to explain some of the stable processes in TIA. We have explained to teachers that we will share information as we make decisions, but we will also let them know, again, like those cut scores could possibly change. So we want them to know this is what we're looking at, our starting point, but know at the end of the day, it might change a little bit as we align closer to the state. We will have open TIA office hours where I will hang on a Google Meet for questions.
Awesome.
I am the TIA lead. I'm not the only one on the team, but I have shared my extension with teachers so they can call or email anytime they process this information and think of more questions.
Awesome. That was going to be my follow-up. Is there a place for teachers to share their voice and provide feedback or questions? Awesome. Thank you.
I have a few questions.
Sir.
On the first slide, it had the committee. Is that the inaugural committee or the current committee?
It is both. There were some names on there from the original committee, and then the names that are still consistently on the committee are on that slide as well.
Okay. And as far as the calibration, when you said that we had a higher number towards the top, when you look at those categories, was there more of an inflation at the top, or we were just under where they should have been coded?
I would love to say that we're over rating or under rating specifically. We just found that we're too closely rating, not giving enough spread according to the growth. So I guess an example would be a teacher at one campus with 60% growth might have a 3.5. A teacher at another campus with 60% growth might have a 4, or a campus down this. So we were giving them that credit for being good teachers, but they were having a variance in the specific numbers to that same amount of growth.
From campus to campus.
It's from campus to campus. It wasn't always too high or too low.
And would it being from campus to campus, were there any trends that you identified where some campuses may need more calibration?
So one of our options for our appeal was to take out a campus or even take out an administrator. Had we done that, it would not have made us more closely aligned. So it's not like one specific campus administrator that was off in their ratings.
Could map data be used as an assessment?
It can.
Okay, because you listed a few of them. I didn't hear that one, so I just wanted to make sure we're clear. And the last one is really just staffing implications. When teachers who were participating expected something at a certain point of the year, they got the news, now it's pushed to next year. Would that based on the feedback that the teams have had, are there any staffing implications that we might have to mitigate? Or if I'm an upset teacher, I'm going to go to this neighboring district because they got it going already. Has that conversation taken place?
We've heard the frustration. It is real. The only thing that we have been able to share is if you do go to a neighboring district, you are 2 years out. If you stay and your data is validated and you get that proposed designation, you'll be paid this August.
Okay.
And that district as well has to be validated
True.
each
So
year.
there's no guarantee.
There's
Each year.
not.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And there are still some districts within Region 4, my understanding is they're just in year one, or they may not.
There are districts in Region 4 who are not ready to
Participate, yeah.
participate in TIA. There are some who are submitting an application. And then, of course, the ones that are approved will continue to go through validation. Every year you add teaching categories, which is what districts' hopes are. You have to really worry about that validation piece and if your new growth measure meets the state's expectations.
Okay, one last one.
Sure.
Since,
What her father used to tell her.
since our area of opportunity seems to be within the T-test, and this question may have already been asked, but I'm asking it a different way, I guess.
Okay.
Of the 109 that we submitted, do you guys have information of that 109 that says you would have, if we would have passed, or got it, you would have gotten it, and you wouldn't have gotten it? Because from a glass half full perspective, this could give some people that wouldn't have got it the opportunity to get it.
Yes.
And if we already know that they weren't going to get it, are we communicating to them, hey, you were almost there, or this is what you needed?
An email went out today with,
Awesome.
we already shared this with them when we visited campuses, but yes, they will be receiving their scorecards, knowing that since our system wasn't validated, those are not approved designations, but that is the proposed designation that you could have received. It's not accurate since the data didn't validate, and of
Right.
course, when we adjust things, some of those will become different designations, but they definitely deserve their growth and T-test they know,
Certainly.
so yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next presentation is going to be enrollment projection forecast.
So for this evening, we have PASA here to present updated demographic information for us. Good evening.
Good evening, Board. Superintendent Nelson, thank you for having us. I'm Stacy Tapera. I'm the President of Population and Survey Analysts. Also with me tonight is Susan Cates. Oops. Also with me tonight is Susan Cates, who is our demographer, who has been working on this project as well, and she'll be. I'll give you some opening information. Susan will come talk a bit, and then I'll wrap up at the end. So. Just to give you a little background, you saw my face last year and Susan's face last year, but know that we have a whole team behind us that almost everyone on our staff touches every project, and we have experts. Everyone is an expert in their subject matter. So demographers in urban planning and economic development. We have mapping experts in GIS mapping, and we have former educators as well on staff who bring us the education perspective. Our process, I won't spend too much time on this because you've heard it last year, but this is a 3 to 4 month deep dive into all of the factors that are impacting enrollment in your district, both in the past and in the future. Now, this gives you a little beginning perspective on the demographic life cycle. Every geographic area, whether it's a neighborhood or a city or a school district, has a natural demographic life cycle. And so there are the years of emerging growth when an area, a district, is rural and they're just rocking along at a pretty stable population growth. And then at some point, the district becomes high growth as new residential development moves in. And clearly, you know this just because you live here, clearly Alvin ISD is within the high growth phase of the demographic life cycle. Eventually, there will be an approaching stabilization and a stabilization of growth, but at the moment, Alvin ISD still has plenty of developable land available to continue the high growth. Now, I just told you that Alvin ISD is in the high growth stage of the demographic life cycle, and these maps illustrate Region 4 and Alvin's position or placement within Region 4. And so the blue areas are districts that have lost enrollment over the past 5 years. And the red districts, orange and red, are districts that have gained enrollment over the past 5 years. So you can see the blue districts in the center in the urban core, and then the ring of red in both maps of the ring of high growth in suburbia around the urban core. And so over the past 5 years, Alvin ISD ranked 6th within Region 4 for total number of students added, so numeric growth, and ranked 10th when considering the percent growth over the past 5 years. This data, it comes from the Census Bureau. This is the American Community Survey, and it talks about the total population of people who live within Alvin ISD, not the student enrollment, but the total people. And so what this data tells us is that the people living within Alvin ISD have the population has grown about 20% larger over the past 5 years. The population is slightly older, with median age is slightly older than it was 5 years ago. The population is more educated, with more people holding bachelor's degrees or greater, and the median household income has also increased. At the enrollment level within Alvin ISD, these are the historical enrollment trends for the past 10 years. So you can see that the early years, like the first 5 years pre-COVID, saw regular and consistent enrollment growth. And since COVID, we have continued to see growth, although it looks a little bit different. And so on the right side, the dark blue bars show that in the years before COVID, the district was gaining between 1,400 students each year and about 1,000 students per year just before COVID. And so while that looks kind of like it's declining, it's not decline, it's a deceleration. That's 1,000 students added every year is every bar. And then post-COVID, that continued about 1,000 students per year being added. Since then, starting in about 23, we've seen a deceleration of that growth each year, so that fewer and fewer students were added each year. And this is not just in Alvin ISD, this has happened across the state. One of the first basic demographic trends that we look at in our process is the babies that were born to mothers who live within Alvin ISD. So on the top, the dark blue line represents how many babies were born to mothers living within Alvin ISD, and those births are shifted 5 years to the right so that they line up with the year that those babies will enter kindergarten. And the green line is the kindergarten enrollment in Alvin ISD. So the first thing to notice is that these lines are fairly parallel. That doesn't always happen, but it does in this district. And the second thing to note is the enrollment, the kindergarten enrollment line, the green line, is larger, is higher. There are more kindergartners enrolled than there were babies born 5 years prior. And the reason for that is all of the new housing and people moving into the district. The dotted line is current right now, and the black line, or the dark navy line to the right of the dotted line, that represents the number of babies who have been born here over the past 4 years that are not yet old enough to enter kindergarten. And so in this district, there has been a significant upturn in those births in the past 4 years, and so we can anticipate seeing a slight increase in the kindergarten class in the next few years. just to give you some comparison of Alvin ISD compared to Region 4 in general and the state of Texas overall, those two lines you'll notice are switched. So there are more babies born in Region 4 than there are kindergartners enrolled 5 years later in ISDs in Region 4. And the reason for that, and the same with Texas as a whole, is the alternative educational opportunities or charter schools that children are starting kindergarten and the districts never even see them. So let's look at current and past students and some trends there. One of the first things we do in our process is to get from you a list of every student and their address, and we place that student's address on the map as a dot. And that's called geocoding. And the gray dots on this map represent where a student lived 2 years ago in fall of '23. The maroon dots are underneath those gray dots, and that represents the current students, where every student lives right now. The only time you see a maroon dot is in a place, in a neighborhood, where students live now, and no students lived there 2 years ago, right? That's the only time you see red or maroon. And so that clearly points out the subdivisions that are new and growing, like Cantera Creek over on the west and the Caldwell Lakes and Crossing. Meridiana is just to the east, and Valencia and Massey Oaks up in the north. Now, this table, these colors represent the classes, the classes each year district-wide that have the most students enrolled in red and the fewest students enrolled in blue. And so that red diagonal stripe that you see going through the chart tells us that in fall of 2016, there were big classes in first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, and fifth grade. There was a bulge in the population. And as those cohorts have aged through the system, they've gotten older and older, and they have remained the biggest classes even into the high school years. The two remaining years of that bulge are currently in 10th and 11th grade. Importantly, notice at the top of this chart, the kindergarten classes are getting smaller and smaller, and they are much smaller coming in than the outgoing high school classes. And so this tells us that as the 10th and 11th grade bulge that's still remaining in the next few years as they graduate and continue to be replaced by smaller incoming kindergarten classes, that's going to dampen some of the enrollment growth that would otherwise happen. Okay. Students per home is a measure that we calculate so that we can understand which neighborhoods are more student dense and less student dense. So overall, in the whole district, in single-family subdivision homes, approximately 0.55 students live in every home. That's 0.55 Alvin ISD enrolled students per home. That's down slightly from last year. It was 0.57 last year. This might, at first blush, sound small to you because the sort of common understanding is that there are two kids in every house, right? And that is true, but there are not necessarily two Alvin ISD students in every home because there are charter and private school students in some homes, but there are also 0 to 4-year-olds, and there are also empty nesters. And so not every house is in that part of their family's life cycle. So 0.55 is fairly typical, between 0.5 and 0.65, 0.7 students per home in suburban districts like this. Fewer students per unit in multifamily, and that is typical across the board. Now, just because the district-wide average is 0.55 students per home does not mean that's the same in every neighborhood. And so some of the new neighborhoods, for example, like Creek Haven and Valencia, are still very not student dense. They have low ratios of students per home, and that will increase as they continue to build Shadow Creek Ranch, for example, is very student dense at 1.02. There are a lot of students living per house in that neighborhood. However, keep in mind that last year that number was 1.09. So Shadow Creek Ranch that is built out is very student dense, but as those students are graduating and aging out, those parents are not necessarily selling their homes. And so the number of students living in Shadow Creek Ranch is about 7.5% smaller this year than it was last year. Okay, I mentioned earlier alternative educational opportunities, charter schools and private schools in this slide. So on the map, the dark navy dots are charter schools that are enrolling students who live in Alvin ISD. And the yellow dots or orange dots are charter schools that are expected to open in the future. And so the two that are closest to Alvin ISD in Pearland and Missouri City are just outside the boundaries of Alvin ISD, and those are both Harmony schools that are anticipated to open in 2027. Yes, 2027. And so we do anticipate that while the district does not lose a huge number of students to charter schools, we anticipate that number will rise beginning in 2027 when they have access to these two new schools. Now, the private schools are shown in turquoise. Those are private schools that tell us that they have students from Alvin ISD attending. And so a lot of them just on the northern border in Pearland, although there is still not a huge proportion of resident Alvin ISD residents attending those private schools, and we'll get to the numbers in just a minute. As far as the future and vouchers, we do know from the latest data released from the Comptroller's Office that there were just over 1,800 applications for TIFA funds for a voucher from students or families who live within Alvin ISD. However, we know that only about 430 of those had ever previously attended public school. And so we think that the impact of the vouchers will be less this coming year than some had feared, because 75% of the applications came from students who were already in private schools. Everyone always asks me, what about homeschooling? Homeschool is the most difficult to estimate because the state of Texas is one of 20 states that does not require any sort of registration or tracking or accountability for private school education. So the state cannot tell us how many students are being homeschooled. The Census Bureau estimates about 350,000 or so throughout Texas, students being homeschooled. The Texas Homeschool Coalition estimates anywhere from 500 to 620,000 students. So even the big homeschool coalition doesn't have a real clear understanding of how many students are being homeschooled. We are developing a partnership with a company that is using cell phone geofencing data to try to estimate, get a better handle on how many students might be homeschooled in each district. So that is coming soon. So to summarize the public school impact or the impact of other public schools, alternative public schools on Alvin ISD. The blue bars represent the number of students living in Alvin that are attending charter schools. The maroon bars are the number of students transferring out to other districts. The majority of those are Pearland ISD, and after that, Friendswood, Clear Creek, and Angleton. And then the green bars on top are the virtual students, so students who are living here but are enrolled in a virtual program like Roscoe Collegiate, Hallsville, and Fort Stockton are the three big ones. And the line represents the number of students who are living outside of Alvin ISD who are attending Alvin ISD, likely because they have a parent that is an employee here. So this summarizes what I just told you, and the pie chart illustrates that of all the students living in Alvin ISD, about 94% of them are attending Alvin ISD, and the breakdown of all of the others is shown. Your question might be, what does this mean? How does this relate? How good is this?
Right.
I can tell you that of our clients that we have done this for recently in the past few months, similar Houston area clients with about a 94% capture rate, I guess, are Splendora and New Caney. So also on the suburban fringes, still slightly rural, but with suburban development, similar to Alvin. The larger and more further along in the development demographic life cycle are districts like Katy that have about 93%, Cy-Fair has about 92%, Klein has about 91%, and Fort Bend has about 84%. With all of the charter schools just on the north side of the Fort Bend, they are hit very hard by the charter school impact. And then the urban districts that have like for example, San Antonio ISD has a real prevalence of charter schools as well as private schools, and so their estimate is about 76%. So relatively speaking, 94% is really high. Okay, at this point, I'm going to turn the mic over to Susan Cates, our demographer, and then I will be back to wrap everything up.
Thanks, Stacy. Good evening. As we jump into our conversation about housing, I want to touch just a moment on economy because economic factors absolutely impact the housing market, and the primary source of student growth comes from new houses in the district. So we've had some volatility in our interest rates over the last couple of years that has stabilized at somewhere between 6 and 7%. We had the Fed dropping the basis points 6 times in the last 2 years with the hopes of getting that mortgage rate down below 6%. That was kind of the goal. The economists said, we need to get those mortgage rates in the 5% range to really reactivate the housing market. Well, those mortgage rates have remained resistant to dipping below 6%. With the last Fed drop, we got down to like 6.03. And then last week it was back up to 6.5. So we have not seen those rates drop back down into the 5% rate. And by looking at this chart, you can kind of see why that impacts the housing market. The median price of a home in this area is $336,000. So looking at the $300,000 line, you can see that it's a difference of about $600 a month when you move from a 3% mortgage to a 7% mortgage. And for most families, that makes a significant difference. I mean, that's a car payment, that's groceries, that makes a real difference. And so we are seeing sales in this area lag. Last month, year over year, sales were down 15%. And months of inventory, which is a benchmark that we look at, 6 months of inventory is considered a balanced market. And we are inching up toward that 6 months, which is a balanced market. We were at 5.14 most recently, and that is going to exert some downward pressure on home prices. And so what is happening, Stacy talked to you about Shadow Creek Ranch, is that empty nesters who might otherwise sell their home and downsize are going, oh no, I'm hanging on to my sub 3% mortgage rate, and the value of my home is down because there's so much inventory in the market. I am staying put. And so that is causing those student ratios to inch downward in the district. Before we move forward, and we're going to look at quite a few maps over the next few slides, both on my presentation and then continuing in Stacy's, we're going to be talking about planning units. And you may remember from last year, we talked about planning units. We kind of break the district apart into smaller pieces so we can do a deep dive and analysis on the district and really kind of get the district under a microscope, so to speak. We do take your attendance zones into account when we create these planning units, but then we also look at boundaries of subdivisions, we look at major roadways, we look at geographic factors, and then we continue to, as the district ages, we may have to break these pieces apart even smaller to accommodate the growth in the district. But let's jump on into the conversation about what is actually happening in Alvin ISD. As Stacy said, AISD is firmly in the high growth phase on this map. We show currently developing subdivisions in green, and those that are planned are showing up in blue, and there's a whole lot of them. You can see that activity is primarily on the western side of the district, along that Highway 288 corridor in Manville and Iowa Colony, and then we've got a few pockets of development north of Highway 6, and then a couple closer to Alvin. The biggest change for me as the demographer looking at development in the district this year was a surge in development happening around Alvin. We're seeing a lot of owner changes in that area, indicating that developers are land banking property in that area. And then we are seeing some infrastructure starting to go in those subdivisions. So there is significant growth happening right around Alvin. And then also, as Stacy mentioned, all that white area is developable land, and especially looking at the central part of the district and then south, so the Alvin and Liverpool area, there's a lot of land remaining in the district to develop. When we look at a district, we are doing a 10-year projection for you, and so we provide you two numbers here for the top occupancy generating subdivisions over that 10-year projection period. The top number is occupancies within this 10-year projection period. And then the lower number is more information on your part, which is the total units in that subdivision at build out. And you can see that Meridiana continues to be the top occupancy generator over this 10-year projection cycle. And then a new entrant into the race is Peachtree. Last year, we projected this tract of land as the Walton Investments Tract. We now have more information on this project. The developer has been very generous in sharing their plans, site plans for this development, as well as how quickly they plan to build that out. And they actually have infrastructure going in on that project at this time. Creek Haven is fairly new. They only had, I think, 11 homes occupied at the time that we went and counted occupied homes in the district. And so they come in at number 3. And then Massey Oaks up in Pearland, and then Caldwell Developments, which is a D.R. Horton development, and that will be right along the western edge of the district, the boundary that you share with Fort Bend. This slide shows a couple of heat maps. On the left is the heat map that shows the first 5 years of the projection period, and then the one on the right shows the full 10-year projection period. You can see, again, the darkest red is showing the highest number of occupancies. Again, most of that development on the western side with pockets north of Highway 6. And then as we move through this projection period, we are seeing darkening areas to the south, and that is primarily along the proposed Grand Parkway extension. And that Grand Parkway extension really is projected to be a strong catalyst for development in the southern part of the district. Talking just briefly about multifamily, because honestly, multifamily currently does not comprise a large part of occupancies in the district, less than 8%. And because of the type of renter that we are seeing move into these new construction, very high-end, usually high price point for a family developments, you see lower student ratios. In fact, even though we've got 8% of occupancies, it's only 3% of the students that are coming out of those occupancies. Broadstone Sierra Vista is labeled as A. They are currently leasing up. They're completed and leasing up. And then to the north, there's a project that is currently still in construction in Pearland Town Center and one in Pomona. PASA has identified 5 additional sites that we feel like would be suitable for multifamily development, but it really is important to note that the municipalities in this area are cautious about approving multifamily development and usually only do so as part of planned unit development. So where you would have multifamily that's also part of a single family development like Pomona, or where it's part of a commercial and retail development like at Pearland Town Center. So you will see these mixed use type multifamily projects, but it is not proposed that you will see a lot of just standalone apartments because the municipalities are very cautious in approving them. So in summary, we are projecting just over 3,100 new housing occupancies over the 10-year period. Almost 90% of those are in traditional single-family developments. Again, about 8% will be from multifamily development. One area that I just want to briefly touch on is alternative single-family residential, and that includes build-to-rent communities where they look like single-family residential, but the developer has built them as a rental community, and then also manufactured housing communities. Both of these types of development are gaining momentum in the industry as functional workforce housing. And so there are areas of the district, particularly in that central part of the district, that really could see additional growth coming from these alternative residential housing types. The major catalyst for growth, again, we think in the south, Grand Parkway is going to be a large catalyst. And this is going to be partially due to the fact the city of Alvin, when we met with them, they indicated that as part of their that first part of the Grand Parkway that is going along 35, just on the eastern side of Alvin, the city of Alvin is actually doing some infrastructure construction in conjunction with Grand Parkway, and that will open up infrastructure availability in that central part of the district that is within Alvin city limits and Alvin's ETJ. Last year, we told you there was an impediment because they were having a hard time getting infrastructure across the railroad. This should mitigate some of that issue by providing access to water and wastewater in that central part of the district. And there remain large developable tracts of land, so opportunity for growth even beyond this projection period. Alvin ISD, the bottom line is you're very attractive to people wanting to move into this area and raise a family. And so we anticipate continued growth in the residential, both in the traditional residential that we've spoken of, as well as some of these alternative residential types. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Stacy.
You've been very patient and you've heard a lot of information. So I am going to wrap it up now, talking about how all of this is related to student enrollment projections. Before we jump into that, I'm going to talk about last year, our projections, versus the actual enrollment, the students that were enrolled. So there were about 340 fewer students enrolled this year than we projected would be enrolled under our middle scenario, most likely 10-year enrollment forecast. So what changed? What assumptions did we make last year that changed, that did not come true, to yield 340 fewer students? Number one, Susan talked about the housing market. There were fewer houses built this past year due to a number of conditions that she talked about. And I talked about the students per home. There are slightly fewer students in each home. So even of the new houses that were built, there were fewer students moving into those houses. And more significantly, the established neighborhoods, so the built-out neighborhoods, are continuing to decline in student population and enrollment, as, again, those empty nesters are holding on to their sub 3% mortgages and not selling their houses to families with younger students. What else has changed? The biggest change in the housing projections since last year was Peachtree, and how last year it was we called it the Walton Tract, and it was not clearly defined what the plans were for that. And now that those are very clearly outlined and they're sharing great information with us, we have a better concept of what that can look like as far as students, and that accelerated some of our projections. We also know that in new housing, I told you there are slightly fewer students per home, but in the new housing, more of those students are elementary age students. And so with more years basically to be in the district. And so that will have a lasting effect. And then finally, we have the alternative educational opportunities. The two Harmony schools that that I mentioned that are close to the boundaries, we knew about last year. But there is an additional campus, a basis campus that has been announced that's further away. It won't have as much of an impact. So this just summarizes kind of all of those factors that we just went through. The economy and housing market drives new housing construction, and that is still the largest contributor of new student growth in the district. We talked about how many babies are born in the district, and remember on the right side of that dotted line, in the past 4 years, there have been more babies born here. So we anticipate that can have an impact on a larger kindergarten size in the next few years. We saw the red trend going through the cohort as that big bulge of large classes is aging through. Now they're in high school, and so as they graduate, that will put a dampening effect on enrollment growth. In and out migration as families move from the urban core to the suburbs, and then the regeneration of existing neighborhoods and watching how many students are moving in versus how many are either moving out or graduating. So rolling all of these assumptions together, we develop 3 scenarios of growth, and the dotted line represents our 10-year enrollment forecast. That's the middle, most likely, based on everything that we know to be true now, this is our projection at almost 37,000 students in 10 years. That is bracketed in by a reduced scenario and an accelerated scenario that are series of assumptions that are still feasible, that could happen within the next 10 years. All the numbers that you see from here on will be that middle, most likely scenario of growth. This heat map represents how many students are projected to live in each planning unit in 10 years. Of course, we see the density, as I mentioned, up in Shadow Ranch in the far north, and increasing density in the southwest as well. And this is also a heat map, but this is showing growth. So the new students projected to be added to each planning unit, and the blue areas is the projected decline over 10 years. A brief reminder that we talked about geocoding students. Where students are living is what we project. We are demographers, we project where students will live. But because of all of your programs and transfers among schools, that's not necessarily where students will be enrolled. And so we have to take your current transfers and assume that those patterns will remain the same and append that onto the newly projected resident students. And so this map illustrates the elementary attendance zones and the growth, how many new elementary students are projected to live in each of these attendance zones in the next 10 years. And so the biggest growth is projected to be in Nichols-Mock, with 1,300 students projected to be added to that attendance zone over 10 years. What does that mean compared to the utilization, the capacity of each school? Yes, you're gaining these students, but how many students can the school hold?
Right.
So on the left side is in 5 years the projected utilization of each school, and we see that E.C. Mason, Barbara Bennett, Bell Sanchez, Meridiana, and Nichols-Mock are all red. Those are projected to have more than 120% utilization in 5 years. And on the right, after 10 years, Bell Sanchez drops off because it will be built out by then, and all of the same schools are still growing, Mason, Barbara Bennett, Nichols-Mock, and now we also add Bob and Betty Nelson because of the Peachtree growth that will ramp up at the end of this 5-year projection period. So long-term, Nichols-Mock and Nelson are especially projected to accelerate in growth as a result of the Grand Parkway extension. Now, this is just 5 years and 10 years, but how do we know when each of these is projected to reach overcrowding? So this table and in the next this is the first half of the list of schools, and I'll show you the other half in a second. These are elementary schools. The color coding is shades of blue represent underutilization or under 80% utilization, and shades of orange and red represent over 100% utilization. And so we go, for example, to the second page where you see that Bell Sanchez is projected to be at 115% utilization in 2027 and 126% utilization in 2028. And so fortunately, you had a successful 2024 bond election that funded 2 elementary schools. And so one of those elementary schools is currently planned to be open in 2027 to address this at Bell Sanchez and at Barbara Bennett. Those are the areas of overcrowding first to be addressed. At the junior high level, we see red in the same spots where new housing happened and where overcrowded elementary schools happened. And we see over a 10-year period that Iowa Colony Junior High is projected to gain almost 1,000 students, and Jackie Caffey Junior High at a little over 700 new students. In the first 5 years of the projection period, the junior highs are pretty well accommodated. The junior high students are well accommodated by the existing capacity. So Iowa Colony is the only junior high that's even approaching 100% utilization in the first 5 years. In the second 5 years, both Jackie Caffey and Iowa Colony are projected to exceed that 120% threshold. And so the combined, those 2 schools combined are projected to contain about 3 junior highs worth of students living in those areas. And this is the same type of timeline where you can see that overcrowding of both of those 2 schools doesn't happen until the end of this projection period. So you've got some time to think about junior highs. And then finally, at the high school level, Our projections suggest that about 1,500 additional students could be living in the Iowa Colony High School attendance zone over the next 10 years. In the first 5 years, that map is awfully boring, it's all white, but it's because all of those schools are projected to be between 80 and 100% utilization. That's fantastic. That means that you don't have to think about high school capacity for a while. And even 10 years out, Iowa Colony is the only one that's projected to be over that 120% threshold at about 128% utilization. So short-term, great balance. Long-term, especially with the growth associated with the Grand Parkway long-term, you might have to consider, not anytime soon, but in the future, potential capacity expansion or programmatic shifts or possibly even rezoning in order to balance utilization among these high schools long-term. And again, this shows you the timeline that none of these decisions need to be made immediately. And so, just to summarize, the primary findings that we found this study is about a decade ago, there was a big elementary bulge. Those kids have aged through, and they're now in high school and will continue to graduate and dampen future growth a little bit. New housing is still driving the intense student enrollment growth, with potentially 1,400 new students added just due to new housing in the next 10 years. Births over the past 4 years have trended up in this district, and so we can expect slightly larger pre-K and kindergarten classes in the next few years. And finally, the alternative educational opportunities. While it's not pulling a huge portion of students out of Alvin ISD, the 2 new charters anticipated to open in 2027 could pull a few more. And so with that, I can take any questions.
I'm sure we have a lot of questions.
I'll jump in first. And it's really about what you shared last. Thank you for the packet. I did a little bit of review. Most of the private schools in the northwest sector of the district, and it's in page 49 of the packet, most of those are already established, but you referenced there are several that are coming to the area. I think 4 charter
schools.
Okay. And out of all of the numbers, as far as the alternative educational opportunities, we're used to charters, we're used to the private schools. With what is coming in the form of the educational savings plans and these campuses as well, I looked at page 53, and you talked about the trends of the virtual schools, which we're losing 281 students. That's just under 1% of our student population. That's page 53, if anyone's looking for it. But then when you jump over to page 178, it shows that statewide there's 60,000 virtual students. We're only losing out as far as transfers right now, it's 281, but in the region 4, there's 12,000 students participating in virtual. And so, and ISDs are 84% of that. Is that something that you would continue, or you would expect that schools will continue to see the rise in that growth?
In virtual?
In virtual.
Participation, yes, especially with Senate Bill 569, where any ISD has the ability now to provide a virtual program that can be open to any student in the state that was previously only Roscoe Collegiate, Fort Stockton, and Hallsville, and a few other smaller ones. So yes, the demand for virtual programming has been demonstrated, and I don't think we included that slide, but on page 51, the green bars show the increase in virtual participation across, no, this is just in Alvin ISD. So it's gone from less than 50 a decade ago to about 281. So there's been an increase here and statewide. And there could be additional opportunities available to students after this new 569 bill goes into effect next year. However, it's my personal opinion that virtual schools will never be a competitor on the same scale as charter schools or private, anybody in person. I think that the participation in virtual programs has really accelerated since COVID, when people realized that, that it could be possible. But I don't anticipate that to continue this exponential growth indefinitely.
But if we have 94% that we are retaining, which is very good, and we're losing just under 1%, there's an opportunity. If we say we want to have 97 or 98 of the students who are in our district staying in our schools, is that something a district, basically, if we say we want to do our own virtual, we can keep the 281 as well as attract other students from across the state?
That's what
as
a
way
lot,
to keep
a
the
lot of
dollars
districts
here.
are having this conversation right now.
So just last week, I was in a superintendent meeting with some colleagues in Galveston County in one of their schools. We asked her how many she attracted from out of her district, right? And she said less than 10. The ones that she had in virtual school, I can't remember what her enrollment was. It was not significant. She said most of them were from within her district. And virtual school students don't participate in UIL and those types of things. So I think it just depends on what the parent is looking for. But it's an opportunity, but then you have to think about staffing, and cost of it. So it just depends on, because if they're in virtual school, you have to, depending on what you offer, if it's just one course, 2 courses, or versus the whole curriculum, then you would have to staff it based upon those needs. It's something to look at, but definitely to keep an eye on it to see what other schools are offering and what their outcome is. She was disappointed in what they've gotten out of theirs.
And are they doing it in-house, or are they using a partner that could facilitate?
So one is using a partner and one was trying to do it in-house. But the partner, I think, then the cost of it, because you're having to pay for their
services.
I mean, it's an option, like you said, something to.
Lots of discussions happening. I am
Right.
not hearing any real clear, this is going to be the savior. Even districts who are losing a huge proportion of their, not huge, nobody's huge.
Declining
but
enrollment, yeah.
No, I mean, if even districts who have a lot of their residents participating in virtual programs, they're already established, and so they're not quite sure that if we offer a virtual program, will they come to our program just because it's from their home district? But many of those kids, I mean, maybe we hear about them living all over the state or RVing all over the country because they can take these virtual classes virtually. And so I haven't heard a lot of superintendents with a real adamant, this is going to be our savior as far as pulling back and bringing students back.
We'll be here when they come back.
Any other questions? Thank you for this data.
Thank you very much.
Really
Thank you.
informative,
Yep.
very in-depth. All right, next item on our agenda is the open forum, and we have a couple. So we are now in the open forum portion of the agenda. If you would like to address the board, you should have completed the public participation form and submitted it to the superintendent secretary prior to the meeting, according to policy BED local. After I call your name, please come to the podium and state your name, address, and the purpose for addressing the board. Please understand that you'll have 3 minutes to speak, and if a translator is needed, you'll be given 6 minutes to speak. I ask that you also understand that the board cannot take action on your request or comment at this time. However, the board president or designee may refer the request to the superintendent for the review. And we do have a timer on the screens just to orientate the folks that are here tonight. The first person is Shirley Brothers.
Okay, good evening, friends. My address is 34 Fulton Drive North, and my name is Shirley Brothers. And I'm here to, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to come before you to remind everyone that April is both Child Abuse Awareness Month and Child Sexual Abuse Awareness Month, and Prevention Month, I should say. This month promotes the urgent need to address and work to prevent child sexual abuse and child abuse in our communities. Sexual abuse and child abuse thrive in silence and impact individuals of all ages, genders, and backgrounds. Prevention starts with recognizing that it is happening and educating ourselves and others about consent, healthy relationships, and the importance of believing and supporting survivors. Just a few statistics. Nationally, 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys experience sexual abuse before the age of 18. More staggering is that of the reported cases of child abuse in Brazoria County in 2025, 75% were sexual abuse. So that is staggering to me. But most sadly, most all victims know their abusers. While we hear a lot about high-profile cases, there are survivors right here in our schools, in our neighborhoods, our churches, our friends groups, and everywhere. It's closer than we realize. People who sexually abuse young people come from all ages and all backgrounds. They work to build trust, and they manipulate the young person before the abuse begins. That's why educators, especially educators, need to know the signals and not ignore the signals. When we ignore them, it becomes easier for those abusers to take advantage of our children. Teachers and those who work directly with children every day must know the warning signs of abuse, especially sexual abuse, because those signals sometimes are not visible. So we must teach our kids about boundaries, how to support, and we be able to support survivors when they speak up, and support organizations that help victims heal. Prevention is not abstract. It's It's personal, it's relational, and it's driven by people who are willing to step forward and take an active role in protecting children. And so today, as educators, as parents, as grandparents, as caring adults, when our young people are walking through a storm, let's not just provide commentary, let's provide information from organizations like the Brazoria County Alliance for Children, who has, as part of its mission, to provide outreach and training to schools, all free of charge. Let's not just stand at a distance, let's step closer. Be the safe place, be the quiet presence, and the umbrella of grace for all children. Please accept this information from the Brazoria County Alliance for Children and the Child Welfare Board, and a special pin to recognize the month. And thank you, Mr. Johnson, for remembering from last year. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next person that is signed up for open forum is Misty Singleton.
Hi, I'm supposed to say my name. My name is Misty Singleton, and my address, 7105 Carpenter Road. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. Okay. Good evening. My name is Misty Wisnowski Singleton. I am a 3-generation Alvin ISD legacy since 1951. My father attended school here. I attended school here. My 4 children went through our classrooms. I have been a teacher in this district since 1999, and I'm also a local taxpayer. Alvin Junior High teachers are some of the 100 teachers the district handpicked for the TIA cohort because of our resilience. We are the teachers who stood firm when we lost our principal to COVID. We are the teachers who showed up to lead our students the day after a colleague was stabbed in our hallways. For 27 years, I have given this district my loyalty through its darkest moments. We did our part. 53 teachers across the district hit the performance targets. We grew our students, and 53 teachers earned this designation. However, while I was being resilient, the district was being irresponsible. According to the 2025 TIA annual report across Texas, 92% of the districts successfully validated their TIA data. Our district is now in the failing 8%. This is not a state-level issue. This is a local failure of leadership. According to the TIA readiness checklist, the district is required to maintain regular, transparent communication and annual monitoring. Instead, there has been a total communication blackout. We have heard nothing since 2024. To find out 2 years later that our data was denied, meaning my hard work was invalidated by administrative error, is a profound betrayal of trust. It is a bitter reality that the committee overseeing this failure, a group of 9 or 10 people, earn a collective salary well into the millions. Yet it is the teachers who are being fined for their mistakes. This isn't a missed bonus. TIA is pensionable. The math is very simple. For every $5,000 we are denied, we lose approximately $130 every single month in retirement. If a master teacher designation is worth $12,000 to $32,000 a year, the district's administrative failure is costing the teacher $312 to $780 every single month for the rest of their life. Over a 20-year retirement, that is a loss of $74,880 to $187,200 per teacher. For a veteran teacher, you are effectively voting to shrink my pension by thousands of dollars a year for the rest of our life because an administrator did not follow a very simple checklist. Let's talk about the fiscal impact on the district. TIA is 100% funded by the state of Texas. It costs this district nothing to reward us. By failing to validate the data for 53 teachers you submitted, this committee didn't just fail us, they left state money on the table in Austin. As a taxpayer, I find it fiscally irresponsible that we are paying million-dollar salaries.
Thank you. Yes, do you have like maybe 30 seconds left?
Yes.
Okay, that's it.
As a taxpayer, I find it fiscally irresponsible that we are paying million-dollar administrative salaries to a committee that cannot successfully capture a million-dollar state grant. That is money that should be circulating into our local economy and securing the retirements of our veteran teachers. Instead, it is gone, and the only people suffering the consequences are the teachers and the taxpayers. The district knew exactly who they were picking when they chose us. They chose us, the ones that don't quit. I am asking this board to show the same level of commitment. For those 53 teachers that earned that designation, we should find the money and pay them for that money that they deserved. A written explanation of why the million-dollar committee failed the state's validation standards and immediate adherence to the TEA communication guidelines that were set forth.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have one more person for the open public participation, and that is Mr. George Tackard.
Board members, Mr. Tackard, put a blank sheet by each of your places, and he'd like you to participate.
Oh, it's a petition. Yep.
Would you state your name and address, please? Okay, thank you.
Sorry?
State your name and address, sir.
George Tackard, 3815 County Road 155 in Alvin.
He wanted you to write a
Tonight, I want to tell you about my educational experiences at Nelson Elementary. Wanting to become a teacher's aide, I asked to visit some Nelson classes to become familiar with today's teaching methods. I was prepared to learn how to operate a lot of electronic equipment, but I was pleased to find that student-teacher interaction was the preferred method of teaching. Come with me on my journey. The first class did not have a name, but the activities were designed around learning to listen and follow instructions. These are fundamentals at Nelson. My next class was an art class. The art teacher said, no project work today. I'm going to talk about art. Cavemen did not have a language, so they used art to communicate. This is the reason you see drawings on cave walls. I had always looked at them as art and never considered them a message, but I will now. You're never too old to learn. The teacher told the students to take a clean sheet of paper and draw a picture message. Okay, board, sorry, I was gonna let y'all draw a picture message, but we didn't distribute the paper.
We have it.
You got it? Give them the paper and draw us a picture message. The art teacher had turned the art class into a creative thinking activity and expanded the students' general knowledge. My last class was reading. Are we ready? The teacher said, we are not going to read. I'm going to talk about writing. To read, someone has to write. People write for a number of reasons, and we're going to talk about 3. Marianne put a P on the thing in the first section to stand for persuade. People write to get you to think like they do. In the next section,
Mr. Tackard.
put an I to stand for inform. Some people just want to give you information.
Mr. Tackard, you ran out of time, but you can have 30 seconds more to finish.
I'm
sir.
almost
Yes.
through.
Yes, sir.
In the last section, put an E. Some people write just to entertain, like a feel-good story. And the teacher said, if you look on the plate now, we got P-I-E. And she said, that makes me hungry, talking about pie. So she got a pie out of the cabinet to share with the students. And I hope the word pie makes you hungry, because Mary Ann and her helpers are going to serve you pie. And the timekeeper for allowing me a little extra time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for the pie.
I was wondering why the pie was back there. All right.
I made mine.
You want it now?
Do you want your pie now?
I'm a good student.
Do you want your pie?
I'll wait.
I'll wait.
You have your pie needed too.
Thank you. We appreciate you being here.
I heard some things about virtual classes, and I hope my remarks will help you to appreciate the value of teacher-led education.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you, sir. All right, next on the agenda is the consent agenda item. Agenda, I should say.
Marianne's not going to let me down. Okay.
She won't. Thank you.
Mr.
Thank you.
Tackard.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, consent agenda item, it's an action item. We have several of them tonight. I'll go through them. And then, let's see here. So consent agenda item A, request to consider approval for board minutes. B, request to consider approval of donation. C, request to consider approval of award of contractor consultant proposals. D, request to consider approval of expenditure over $100,000, roofing installation at Manville High School. E, request to consider approval of inter-district transfer of surplus network infrastructure. And F, request to consider approval of audit services for the fiscal year ending 2026. Ms. Nelson, before we start moving into motions and all that, is there any additional information than what's in the board packet you'd like to present?
No.
All right, board, are there any items needing to be pulled for individual consideration? All right, then, I will entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items A through F.
I move the board approve consent agenda items A through F as presented.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Scott, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I have a first and a second. All in favor of approving consent agenda items A through F? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Next agenda item is a request to consider approval of certificate for order.
So Board, Alvin ISD engages in active debt management to ensure the best value for the district and our taxpayers. The following authorization provides flexibility for the district to respond to guidance shared following the 89th legislative session while ensuring the district is well positioned for current and long-term needs. As such, the board is asked to consider order authorizing the issuance, sale, and delivery of Alvin Independent School District unlimited tax refunding bonds, setting certain parameters for the bonds, authorizing a pricing officer to approve the amount, the interest rate, price, and terms thereof, and certain other procedures and provisions related thereto, levying a tax and providing for the security and payment of such bonds, and enacting other provisions relating thereto.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion for the board to approve the certificate for order as presented.
I move that the board approves the certificate for order as presented.
Thank you, Trustee Roberson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Scott. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, we have a first by Trustee Roberson, a second from Trustee Scott for the board to approve the certificate for order as presented.
No.
Thank you. Motion carries 6-0. Next on the agenda is a request to consider approval of scoreboard at Alvin High School Memorial Stadium.
So Board, the current scoreboard at Alvin High School Memorial Stadium's reached the end of its functional life. Now 15 years old, the unit has reached the maximum average lifespan of 10 to 15 years for this type of technology. Consequently, the district is facing an increasing number of service calls and maintenance requirements to keep the board operational for athletic events. The district is committed to ensuring facilities are operated in an efficient and responsible manner. Replacing a failing system before a total terminal failure occurs ensures that Memorial Stadium remains a safe and reliable environment for students and the spectators.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion to approve the purchase and installation of a video scoreboard and scoring system at Alvin High School Memorial Stadium in the amount of $435,000, $435,627. Is there a first?
I move that
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, okay, go ahead. Yes.
I move that we approve the purchase and installation of a video scoreboard and scoring system at Alvin High School Memorial Stadium in the amount of $435,627.00.
Thank you, Trustee Roberson. Is there a second?
Second.
Who was that, Mr. Humbard? Thank you. All right. Is there any discussion?
I have one comment.
Yes, sir.
With this dollar tag, can we ensure that we will score as many points and get all the way to the 3 digits in both sides?
This is a start. That's a great.
I just want to get our money's worth. with that.
Aspiration.
I'm just
We
saying.
will definitely shoot for the stars.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, we have a first by Trustee Roberson, a second by Trustee Humbard. All in favor of approving and the installation of a video scoreboard or scoring system at Alvin High School Memorial Stadium in the amount of $435,627. All right, motion carried. Trustee Scott? Okay, yep. Okay, motion carries 6-0. All right, the next agenda item is a request to consider approval of the guaranteed maximum price, GMP, for construction at Alvin High School expansion and renovation, Phase 1.
So Board, on April the 1st, 2026, representatives from Alvin ISD's Construction Service Department, PBK Architects, and Stewart Builders received competitive proposals from subcontractors and vendors for Phase 1 of this project, which includes earthwork, site utilities, and the building pad for the expansion areas. After evaluation of those proposals, Stewart Builders has submitted a guaranteed maximum price of $15,418,599 for review and acceptance by Alvin ISD staff and Board of Trustees.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion for the board to approve a GMP amount not to exceed $15,418,599 for construction of the Alvin High School expansion and renovation, Phase 1, and authorize the superintendent or her designee to review and execute the final negotiated amendment to the construction manager at risk contract with Stewart Builders.
I move that the Board of Trustees approves the guaranteed maximum price amount not to exceed $15,418,599 for construction of the Alvin High School expansion and renovation Phase 1 and authorize the superintendent or her designee to review and execute the final negotiated amendment to the construction manager at risk contract with Stewart Builders.
Thank you, Trustee Johnson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Roberson. All right, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the trustees approving the GMP not to exceed $15,418,599 for construction of the Alvin High School expansion and renovation Phase 1, and authorize the superintendent or her designee to review and execute the final negotiated amendment to the construction manager at risk contract with Stewart Builders. Motion carries 6-0. All right, next agenda item is a request to consider teacher appraisal calendar.
Board, Alvin ISD creates a local appraisal calendar included in the teacher local appraisal system within the District of Innovation Plan. Every year, a new teacher appraisal calendar is created and presented to the board for information, but does not require board approval. The calendar is then sent to the appraisers and to the teachers.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion that the board reviews the appraisal calendar as presented.
I move that the board review the appraisal calendar as presented.
Thank you, Trustee Sweeney. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Scott. Are there any questions or discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor for the board to review the appraisal calendar as presented? Motion carries 7-0. Next agenda item is a request to consider approval of extension of professional contracts.
So, Board, to comply with the Texas Education Code, we ask that the board consider professional contracts at this meeting, and they're attached.
Thank you.
The list.
Yep. I will entertain a motion for the board to approve the professional contract recommendations for extension as listed.
I move that the board approve professional contract recommendations for extension as listed.
Thank you. Trustee Sweeney, is there a second? Thank you, Trustee Johnson. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor for the board to approve the professional contract recommendations for extension as listed? All opposed? Abstain? All right, motion carries with 5 approval and 0 against and 1 abstain, please. Next on the agenda is a request to consider approval of employment of personnel.
So, board attached, you will see a couple of recommendations for contract consideration.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion for the board to approve the requested personnel items as presented.
I move the board approve the granted for requested personnel items as presented.
Thank you, Trustee Scott. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Trustee Sweeney. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor for the approve the requested personnel items as presented? Motion carries 6-0. All right, we're through with the main part of the agenda. It is now 8:12 p.m., and the board will go into closed executive session for 551.076. Consider the deployment specific occasion for or implementation of security personnel or devices, and B, 551.071, multi-district litigation update. And we will return to open session to adjourn.